Today's topic is the business of being sick, and I want to just cover a few things about what we mean by that. How many of you have ever seen like the movie The Business of Being Born? Does anyone know what I'm talking about? One person? The Business of Being Born? Okay. I kind of stole the idea for this whole talk from that movie, and it's a movie about how I would have Michaela explain it, but she's on camera right now. So, The Business of Being Born is all about how birthing, which you'll hear me talk about in the April 9th Women, Birthing, Beauty, and Biopsies class that we're going to do. Put that on your calendar. How birthing went from a very natural, easy thing to an industry. How it went from, my sister being born for $60, I think it was, or $70, to me being, a few years later being, thousands and thousands and thousands. How many of you know birthing changed over the course of the last 30, 40, 50 years? Yeah. So it went from my grandma and people like her just buckling down and being able to have be done with birth in a few minutes to all of a sudden they're in the hospital for 2-3 days and it's run on $10,000, $15,000, $20,000. Kind of the same thing here. So I want you to really think about a few questions. Like we said earlier, America has every surgery, every drug, every vaccine. We have every procedure. We have every imaging center. We have every CAT scan, MRI, blood lab, X-ray on every corner. But I will ask this question again. Everybody in this room knows the answer to this question. Are people healthier today or sicker today? Sicker. Nobody even doubts it. Nobody even thinks about it. Nobody even bats an eye. We're sicker, but how can that be? We have all the imaging, we have all the surgery, we have all the vaccines, we have every drug, every concoction, every chemotherapy drug there is we have in this country, right? Are cancer hospitals getting bigger or smaller? Are children getting younger children getting sicker or healthier? Sicker. I don't even have to ask. Nobody says opposite. Everybody is in unison. Everybody knows this. Why? Does anybody know why?
You're not the doctor in every hospital.
That is correct. I'm done. I'm going home now. That's the right answer. That is the right answer.
Nobody teaches nutrition.
That's a big part of it. Yeah, that's a big part of it. If they're not doing the right thing, that's part of it. But what if they're doing the wrong thing while they're not doing the right thing? What if we're going the opposite direction? If you're going the opposite direction, you're also leaving behind the right direction, right? So it's the double whammy, right? So I'm just a few caveats. Business of being sick, I'm going to explain to you. I'm going to explain to you your premiums, your deductibles, your copays, your coinsurance, all the stuff that you guys have been paying tens of thousands of dollars for. I'm going to explain to you how you can maybe better redistribute that wealth. How's that sound? Is anybody into this or no? Okay, good. I will say this too. There are a few caveats that I'll say. I am not taking anyone off of their drugs. Never have, never will. Our goal, however, is to get you so healthy that you don't need the toxic pharmaceutical poisons. I don't even call them drugs anymore. Drugs is a cliche word now. It's kind of passé. It's everybody's, it's designer drugs. It's good. There's good drugs. There's safe drugs. Is there such a thing? I don't even say drugs anymore. I just say toxic poisons. Because that's really what they are. How many of you have ever seen a productive, happy, successful person in society, a citizen next to you? How many of you have ever seen a productive, successful person carrying around a prescription bag of 27 pharmaceuticals? Has it ever happened? Can you give me an example? Anybody? I'm not going to put anybody on the spot or anything, but really think about it. If your life essence is being robbed by 5, 10, 15, 20, 25 pharmaceuticals, are you going to really produce and do and be the person that you can produce and do and be? Yes or no?
No.
It's impossible. I just want to pass this around. Here's one page from Clinic. This was Clinic a few years ago when I was in school. I want you to pass this around. This doesn't have any names or anything. This is what I get almost on a daily basis. That's one patient. I want everybody to pass that around. And then I'm going to start this over here. This is a typical, that right there, just to let everybody know. That is one patient. Names have been removed from all this stuff. Don't worry, HIPAA. Everything's cool. That got a laugh out of you. You know HIPAA. Drugs. There are on that list, I think, 19 meds, and then there are 7 or 8 nutraceuticals. Okay? That's one person. That can be your mother. That can be your grandmother. That can be your aunt, your uncle, your cousin, your dad, your mom. That's pretty average. Average American over 50 is on 15 medications. That's above average, 27. Here is an ER visit. I got this from someone. An ER visit for kidney stones. How many of you want to harbor a guess for what the total bill, the amount billed, would be for an ER visit for kidney stones? Anybody? Don't look.
3,000?
That's a good guess. Good guess. Say, I heard 20,000. We're going to play prices right here. Closest without going over. That's better. No? Oh, is that you, Kenlon? Oh, you're closer than anybody else. Oh, you're even closer. Oh, I see. $12,482. Just pass that around. Okay? Then I have here all day long. This is the stuff I get here. This was a long time ago, and this was from someone's. This wasn't even my patient. Then, and if that's your ER bill, and you see it floating around, just don't tell anybody. Just kidding. Oh, hey, this looks familiar. That's exactly what I paid. Wait a minute. This is 2012. This is something. This is from Clinic 2, I believe. This is when I was in school, so this obviously had to come from before I started this practice. That's one person's stuff. And then here is another. Patient's name been removed. Oxycodone. So this is a 3-page, I forget what this was for. This is 3 pages of $17,725 bill for, I forget what this was, but there's mineral oil on here at $15 a bottle for 25 milliliters. There's oxycodone, acetaminophen, 325 milligram tablet for $21. Fentanyl, everybody knows about fentanyl? How good and awesome and holy fentanyl is? Everybody? Yeah? Okay. Fentanyl's on here for a tenth of a milligram for $15. And this is years ago. This was 2015. A tenth of a milligram for $15. Fentanyl. Everybody knows what fentanyl is? Anybody? Do I need to explain fentanyl? That's the stuff that's opioid, right? It's the stuff that they smuggle across the border from Mexico. It's imported from China. It's made in China, right? We fly it into Mexico, and then we walk it across the border. That's what fentanyl is. And last, I think August, September, there was enough fentanyl discovered in New York City to kill 32 billion people or something like that. One drug bust. It was an astronomical amount of people that it could have murdered. That's fentanyl. That's your friend, okay? Paid for by your insurance company. Here's $17,725 bill for a couple days. Wait, what was the hospital stay? Admission date, 7/14. Discharge date, 7/15. That's one day. 18 grand. All right. So first of all, I am a lot of it's drugs. Drugs and then procedures and stuff. You can check it out. This is what you get from the hospital. Yeah, that one can go that way. So just pass them around. Make sure everybody gets a chance to look at them. I mean, this is what, if you haven't seen stuff like this before, let it sink in. If you haven't seen bills like this, or if you haven't seen a list, when people say, well, I don't know if I can change my diet, I don't know if I can take your supplements, and then they show me this list, right? Lisa, let me see that real quick. They show me this list that says, this here, 1 tablet, 1 a day at night. 1 tablet twice a day in AM and PM. 1 tablet once a day in the morning. 1 tablet once a day. 1 tablet twice a day, AM and dinner. 1 tablet twice a day, AM and dinner. You see what I mean? They're doing that. You follow me? If they can do that, then they can do what I'm asking them to do. So there you go. You can memorize that. Okay. All right. So a couple of caveats. I'm not taking anybody off their poisons. We get them so healthy they don't need them. So pass all that stuff around. And Hannah, can you make sure to collect all those? Or Jim, can you make sure to collect all those in the back? I passed around like 4 or 5 things. And I am not saying, we're going to talk a lot about insurance. I am not saying for you to go without insurance. I'm just saying there are some other options for you. And I'm just saying I want you to do the math. If you've never sat down and done the math on this, I want you to figure this out. I'm just getting you to think about how the media and the government, just like with birthing, what we just talked about, how the media and the government are influencing people to do some things that may not be a smart idea. That's all. But the decision is ultimately yours, okay? I just hit the mic. Sorry, guys. Sorry about that. So I would like to say this too. I'm not into opinions. I'm not into debating people about how they feel or what they think or their emotions or any of this garbage. I'm just into the facts of it. The facts of it here are the facts. Your body was designed to live and breathe and move and have your being in Him, not to be confused and depressed, not to be downtrodden, not to be broke by the system that's promising you health but giving you death. You were not created to live in depression and fear of, oh, this accident might happen and something might fall out of the sky and I have to spend all my hard-earned money for this product that I don't want that's only going to give me access to things that I don't believe in. Do you follow me? This is a very different paradigm. So you have to decide what's right for you. We're not going to talk about opinions. We're only going to talk about facts. And if the fact of the matter is that no drug has ever cured a disease, I'm listening if anybody knows of one that has. Anybody? 20, 30-something people here? And somebody on 27 of them, you're telling me that none of those are curing anything? What about her diabetes? What about her blood pressure? What about her heart disease? What do you mean they're not curing the disease? No, there's never been a drug that ever cured a disease, period. Take that to the bank. Y'all know that, right? Although, I will point this out. I saw this the other day on an advertisement. They're now saying, the pharmaceutical companies are now saying that hepatitis C, they have a cure for hepatitis C. Have you seen this? I can't use the C word, but they can. Have you seen this? It's crazy. A cure for hepatitis C. I've seen it. I have to look into this. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. I just wanted to vent for a minute. Thank you. I feel better. Okay. So why are patients getting sicker? Well, if the hospitals are just handing out more drugs and the doctors have to give drugs by license and by law, then they're only doing their job. So don't hate the doctor. If you go to the doctor, which I hear this all the time, you go to the doctor, well, I went to my MD and he just wanted to give me a bunch of pills. I don't want no pills. Well, you're going to a mechanic and asking to get your roof done. You follow me? You're going to the butcher and saying, paint my house. It's not going to happen. Because by law, by training, by ethics, by legality, they have to give you drugs. They have to. Unless they operate outside the system and they don't communicate and they don't participate with Blue Cross Blue Shield, then they're in the system. So God help them. No, they're just doing their job. Don't hate them because they're trying to give you pills. That's what they do. And I hear it all the time. I went to my doctor. He just wanted to give me pills. You're surprised by this. Don't be surprised. Okay? That's what they have to do. I'll leave this part up. We'll fast forward a little bit through this. So the drug companies, aka what we call healthcare costs, do you know the drug companies are in the healthcare costs? When you do the calculations for healthcare costs, drugs are in there. But are drugs, as we just determined, are drugs healthcare? Or are we calling good evil and evil good? Are drugs healthcare? Yes or no? No. We'll do one more time. On three. Are drugs healthcare? Yes or no? No. Perfect. Yeah, we had that one outlier right there. Stuck out like a sore thumb. We love you. But the drug companies are raking in 20 to 25% of the GDP of the USA. That's huge. They're also being caught price fixing. How many of you have known this and seen this in the news? Over the years. This isn't new. This is every day. They're price fixing. They're committing felony crimes. They're giving drugs for off-label purposes. In other words, like Adderall, an ADD drug, if they say that the drug was given off-label, that means for a purpose that was not what the drug was originally designed. So like if an ADD drug, like Adderall or Vyvanse or something like that, shuts down your digestion and makes it so you're not hungry, guess what we can market that as later on? Weight loss. Right. Crazy, huh? Committing felony crimes, massive fraud claims. How many of you remember? It goes on with drugs all the time. The big one was Vioxx. That was just recently. But opioids last year killed more people than the Vietnam War. Opioids. Fentanyl, remember what we just talked about a little while ago? Yeah, killed more people in 1 year. How long were we in Vietnam, Jim? Any idea? Anybody? 8 or 9 years? Mid-70s? 74. 15 years. 58,000 people, Americans, died in Vietnam. Last year, opioid drugs took out more than that in 1 year. Epidemic, right? Media funded by drug companies, you all know that. The medical journals written by Big Pharma, they're scientifically corrupt. Every drug that kills someone was once approved by what organization?
FDA.
Correct. Has to be. There's not going to be anything on a shelf at a supermarket or anywhere else, or here, by the way, that was not approved by the FDA. Funny, huh? Opioids. Now, what's the new epidemic besides people overdosing? What's OIC? Has anybody seen OIC? Brand new epidemic. Opioid-induced constipation.
Oh,
It's an epidemic, yeah. So we need.
surprise.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's
Didn't see that coming.
That's a big one. Yeah, that's a big one. But we need drugs now to sleep, to wake up, to pee, to poo, to think, to breathe. We need drugs for everything. And if you're sad because you're on so many drugs, then we'll just put you on an antidepressant. And then if you gain weight from being on the drugs, then we'll just put you on we'll put you on a stimulant. But then you're on a depressant and a stimulant. Well, that doesn't make any sense, does it? But millions of people every day, all day are on both. Let's keep going. Now, certain pharmacies, certain stores are looking forward to replacing doctors and pharmacists with vending machines and what will be referred to in the future as drug bots. Because a lot of times, unfortunately, all you really have to do is put your symptoms into an iPad, and then the iPad will spit out what drug you need. That's personalized healthcare. That was a joke. You can laugh at that. You can walk into a pharmacy, in your arm, you can put your arm in a blood pressure cuff and pump it up, and it'll tell you, oh yeah, you got high blood pressure, you got low blood pressure, take this or take that. So if we can replace the doctors, that will replace part of the outflow from the insurance companies to who they have to pay, will it not? So you see where that's going, and you see how fast that's coming now? Okay. Doctors go on strike. Places. Oh, and nurses. And you've heard of this. Everybody's heard of this. Doctors go on strike, nurses go on strike, hospitals go on strike in certain parts of the country. What happens to the death rate? Does it go up or does it go down? Death rate goes down. You can't make this up. It's happened numerous places. Oh, and I left this part out earlier. We're going to say, this was published in JAMA. How many of you know what JAMA is? I don't want to get too researchy, because we know that a lot of the research and things are published I worked in a hospital for 3 years, and I would always sort through all of the medical research journals that come in the doctor's mailboxes and stuff like that. And I would always find it very interesting that there's so many advertisements for pharmaceuticals. And I thought, wow, wait a minute, they own these magazines. So when you look at the research that's published, you have to look at it and go, okay, I went to school that was owned and pretty much operated by Pfizer Pharmaceuticals, right down the street from Pfizer, the biggest drug company on the planet. Okay, so there was a lot of research coming out of our university that was funded by who? So are we ever going to publish a research article that says a Pfizer drug doesn't work? What do you think the chances are of that? Pretty crazy? FDA-approved drugs in 1998, this was 20 years ago. I picked this stat for a reason. JAMA, Journal of the American Medical Association, arguably one of the biggest medical journals out there. In 1998, published. FDA-approved drugs caused over 106,000 deaths in 1 year. That was in 98. Fast forward 20 years, this is 2018, right? That same year, over-the-counter Tylenol caused 500 deaths. Over-the-counter Tylenol. Okay? And that same year, FDA unapproved supplements, that's quote, FDA approved supplements caused 0 deaths in the same year. But end of December, beginning of January, when everybody's redoing their resolutions, what are you hearing about that causes cancer? Fish oil? Too much vitamin D? Too much vitamin A? Inorganic vitamin B supplements on the store shelves at Walmart? The kids' chewy Flintstone vitamins, aren't real and they cause cancer, but are there any cases of that? well, I wouldn't argue that there's better options, but at the same time, I'd rather have kids chewing on gummy Flintstone stuff than taking Lipitor any day of the week. Follow me? So that 1 year, FDA-approved drugs caused 106,000 deaths. 106,000. That's Vietnam times 2 in 1 year. And that's FDA-approved drugs, properly prescribed in the proper channels to the right people at the right time and taken correctly. Is this, I mean, the truth is stranger than fiction, is it not? It's crazy. A couple more facts and then we're going to break down some math. Okay, most plans will offer, if you look at your insurance policies and stuff like this, you need to ask yourself, most plans will offer free vaccinations and mammograms and colonoscopies. Is that right or wrong? Yeah. Why would they offer that? That should tell you something. We won't get into vaccinations right now. I teach whole entire classes on vaccinations. Stuff you can't argue with, stuff that's not opinion, it's fact, stuff that you can't look away from. And once you know it, you can't unknow it. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. But it's going to rattle your cage, I promise you. But we can talk. We'll talk about vaccines in a future class. Usually, I teach an entire class, and usually that's the one that goes like 2 hours, and everybody's coming up afterwards. Yeah. But here are the top, knowing that the vaccinations and the colonoscopies and the mammograms, that those are some big things that they give away for free. Knowing that, I want to quote another JAMA study. I don't want to get too researchy, but let's just use Journal of the American Medical Association, their own published stuff from online in a journal called JAMA Surgery, April 27th. And I quote, researchers analyzed nearly 422,000 patient records. So 422, that's 500,000 people. Just shy of 500,000 people. From a national database of hospital patients and discovered that a mere 7 procedures accounted for approximately 80% of all admissions, deaths, complications, and inpatient costs related to emergency surgery. I'll read that again. 420,000 people, and the researchers discovered 7 procedures accounted for approximately 80% of admissions, deaths, complications, and inpatient costs. Who wants to know what the 7 procedures are? This is JAMA. Top medical research journal in the country. Probably up there, some people, New England Journal of Medicine, JAMA, whatever. It's up there. You guys heard about JAMA? Huh? Who wants to know? Anybody? Do you want to know? Okay. Those surgeries include removing part of the colon, small bowel resection, removing the gallbladder, operations related to peptic ulcer disease, removing abdominal adhesions, appendectomies, and other operations to open the abdomen. You know how many operations that's talking about? How many other operations open the abdomen? Think about that. 7 procedures. That one right there would contain 30 or 40 other surgeries right there. How many could you list that would open the abdomen? You know what I mean? So those 7 surgeries, those 7 procedures right there, 80% of all admissions, deaths, complications, and inpatient costs related to emergency surgeries, that was last year. All right. So that being said, well, what if you're so healthy that you just don't have to go to the doctor? How about that? What do you say? Yeah, I said it. What if you're so healthy that you don't have to go to the doctor? Let me differentiate. Which doctors? Well, not which doctors. What if you don't have to go to the pharmaceutical doctors? What if you don't have to go to the doctors that are pushing drugs? What if you're so healthy that you avoid those trips to the emergency room? What happens if you avoid all of the plagues and the pestilence and the famines? What happens? Of course, there might be accidents. You might cut yourself, need a few stitches. You might have a broken bone, sprain, strain, whatever. But think about it. How many times? That's less than 5% of all emergency room visits, by the way. The actual emergencies, the sprains, strains, broken bones, that type of thing. Main reasons people go to the emergency rooms: abdominal pain, chest pain, shortness of breath. Boom. 95% of it. Most times people call ambulances. It's not car accidents. It's not gunshot wounds. It's not shark bites. It's not stuff like that. It's transferring a patient from a nursing home to a hospital because they had an adverse drug reaction. You know that, right? That's what your tax money is going for when the reds and blues are going. You know, that's what it is. Just FYI. So one of the biggest selling points with insurance is they tell you what you're going to save on prescription drug costs. Am I right or am I right? They tell you how much money you're going to save on, well, this is a $500 pharmaceutical, but if you have our coverage, it's only going to cost you $5, right? But what if you don't want the drug to begin with? Are you getting a deal? Because you've already educated yourselves. You've already stepped out there and learned everything about the cosmetics and the food and the GMOs and how everything that's making us sicker. You've already thought to yourself, wait, we have all these surgeries and procedures and imaging centers, but we're getting sicker. People are dying quicker. They're forgetting their names in a nursing home, sucking on a feeding tube 30 years ahead of time, 30 years earlier than they would have, should have, could have, right? So what's going on? You've already educated yourselves and already thought about this. And you've already said, yeah, I don't want the drugs. But if I go that route, they're only going to give me drugs. So you've already figured it out. So congratulations. You've already hung out with people like this in a room like this. You're coming to a practice like this, talking to a quack like me. You're supposed to laugh at that.
Laugh track.
Yeah, Andrew, can we get a laugh track for next time? Seriously, tough crowd, man. Tough crowd, Facebook. But most people don't want to take the drugs, so then they come here and they say, well, I went to my doctor and yada yada, what we talked about before. But these are the same people who are complaining that, well, I just can't afford organic food. Apple's $2 more for organic. But they're paying $800 a month on premiums for a product that they don't want, that they probably won't use, and then they're saving $495 on a pharmaceutical that goes in the trash can. You follow me? Well, yeah, we won't go into that. That's a whole. So money is, but just understand, money is never the issue. Money is never the issue. How do I know? Bless you. Money is never the issue. How do I know? Because people will purchase what they value. They'll get what they want. How do I know? I'll walk into a Walmart. I'll walk into a convenience store. I'll go anywhere on this globe, and you can walk and go and see any people, anywhere, anytime. There will be brand new cell phones. There will be 29-inch rims, brand new, shiny. There will be Jordans on their feet, and they'll be sick, and they'll be dying, or they'll be driving a brand new car, or with, whether they own it or not, big high payments. They'll purchase what they want. See, money is never the issue. I never talk money with people. I never do. That's Sarah, that's Hannah, that's I never talk money with people because I know that's not the issue. The issue is, do you want to get better? That's all I care about. I don't give a rip about the money. I don't give two rips about the money. Money is an exchange of services, goods and services. Money, I give you value, you give me money. Or if I go to your business and I give you money, you give me value. You change my oil, something. You know, you go to the hospital, but think about the exchange there. I just passed it around. Did all those end up going that way, you guys?
Yes.
I use those frequently. Think about the exchange there. Are you feeling good about that exchange, or are you feeling bad about that exchange? You're feeling like you got ripped off, or are you feeling like you got a good value? Anybody? $17,000 for a day in the hospital? Good value?
No.
Ripped like a what? Somebody said like a dog? Anyway, so it's never about the money. So insurance companies get their skyscrapers and their downtown real estate and all this by two ways. They're going to give you higher premiums, or they're going to withhold payment to doctors. And the best way that they can do that is to deem something medically unnecessary. In other words, you've all heard it, you've all seen it, you've all felt it, you've all experienced it. Other people have told you. They wanted to get a certain test run, and they went to their doctor, and the doctor sent them out to get a certain test. And then a month or two later, they're on the phone with their insurance company for 6 weeks trying to figure out why this isn't covered. Well, the doctor wasn't in network, or the lab that they sent you to wasn't in network, or the person who ordered the lab wasn't in network, and so you're spinning your wheels going around because you just wanted it to be in network, and you thought it was going to cost you $30 and it cost you $3,000, or vice versa. Does that make sense? you have to figure out who's in network with who, and oh, their contract changed, and they're no longer in network, and this imaging center doesn't take patients from this doctor anymore, and this doctor doesn't send labs to this, this doctor doesn't send people to this lab anymore, and this imaging center is not in network with Blue Cross or Cigna or Aetna or whatever. Who keeps track of this stuff? I can't. Who does? I think barely the insurance companies barely can. So that being said, that's the two ways they make money. Now we're going to go through some numbers. Cut out the middleman, pay your doctor cash, just the same way. Here's your advice. Here's your take-home message. Cut out the middleman. Think about it. You're paying inflated, crazy market prices on all this stuff just so that your insurance company can charge you a higher premium by denying you coverage on a pre-existing condition the next year or when you switch insurance companies. So your premium is either going to go up or the doctor's payment is going to go down, but either way, that insurance company is keeping more money. Does that make sense? You're paying into a Ponzi scheme. That's what it is. I hate to say it, but that's really what it is. You're paying into it thinking you're getting a value, but they're getting you on the front side and they're getting you on the back side. How? They're getting you on the front side by saying, pay this premium, okay? Then, once you've paid this premium per month, then you have to pay a deductible before the actual product kicks in. What other industry does this? What other industry does this? Anybody? I mean, the mafia doesn't do this. Does it? You have to pay for your premium, but that's not good enough. You paid your premium for the month, but then before the product actually you get to use, you have to pay a deductible out of pocket. And then that deductible is gone, and then we might pay 80/20. And then you've still got copays, and then you've got and the coinsurance, right? And then you got the prescription costs on top of that. So they get you on the front end, and then they get you on the back end. Because the prescription costs, it's like Kohl's. They mark everything way up, but you get 50, 60% off. So you have to make the drive 30 minutes to go use the $30 coupon, right? Okay, so I'm going to do some math here with you. Food industry, beauty industry, cleaning product industry. We won't even get into all that. I teach classes on the food industry, teach classes on the beauty industry, teach class on the cleaning product industry. That's all on the schedule. You ought to check that out later. But I want to get into some numbers here just so that you can ask some questions. And then I can tell you, not just deliver a bunch of crap, bad news, but I can tell you what we do and how we fix this whole problem, okay? Even if you just cut out the middleman and cut out the insurance company, you know how much money you can save just by eliminating or downgrading your premiums? Not even to mention your deductibles and your copays and your coinsurance and all that, right? You'll still pay less than what you were paying monthly and yearly for premiums and deductibles. Food, beauty, cleaning, I have a bunch of stuff prepared. I won't get into it. But in the 60s, I'll just suffice it to say this. 60s, 70s, people spent 20% of their income on healthcare and 80% of it on food, their expendable income, right? In the 90s, 2000s, it's exactly the opposite. They spend 80% on their healthcare, 20% on their food. How can that be? Well, because we have more fast food, cheaper, enriched, degraded, absolutely horrible food-like substances that aren't foods at all. And then we have super high inflated premiums, deductibles, copay, coinsurance, and then services at the hospitals and the doctor's offices. Insurance premiums. Here's some numbers for you. Average family. We're going to break it down. Premium, deductible, copay, coinsurance, and then prescriptions. We're going to break it down. We're going to say single, and then we're going to say family. Now, we won't add all the numbers up here, but I just want to get basic bottom line here. Okay? So, average family, I came up with some different numbers from a couple different sites, but here's the deal. Average family pays about $8,400 a year, which is $700 a month. Let's get this all in one place here. The average health insurance cost for single coverage in 2017 is $400 a month, $393 a month. So that's how much a year? People with good math. $400 a month, $4,800. $4,800. For family coverage, the cost for premiums is $1,021 a month. So let's just say $12,000. How many of you see where this is going? Do you like those numbers when you look at them like that? when it's coming out of your paycheck, $1.25 a pay period, you're thinking, oh, it's not a lot. I worked at a hospital for 3.5 years, just over 3 years, almost 3.5 years. I paid a lot for my health insurance. It was crazy. I couldn't believe it. Okay? Deductibles. So how many of you know if your deductible is $3,000, right, and you're the single guy trying to afford health care insurance, right, you're already paying your premium, and then you get hit with an accident, your deductible at the end of the year, say it's $3,000. How much did you spend on health care in that year? Say it aloud. Yeah, $8,000, right? If your deductible is $3,000, right? I'll just read some numbers here. Same thing here with your family. If your deductible is $5,000, how much have you paid for health care? $17,000. Now say that $5,000 was, you didn't go to the hospital, you didn't go to the doctor, you didn't go to urgent care. Little Johnny falls down and breaks an arm or a leg, God forbid, or an ankle. And all of a sudden, you've got $5,000 deductible, but you've already paid $12,000. You paid $17,000 that year. Everybody following me on the math? Everybody got that? I will read June 2016 article from CNBC. June 2016. This was a year and a half ago. According to eHealth Insurance, for unsubsidized customers in 2016, premiums for individual coverage averaged $321 a month, so about $400 a month, while premiums for family plans averaged $833 a month, so let's say $1,000, just about. The average annual deductible for individual plans was $43.58. Look at that. The deductible, right? And the average deductible for family plans is $79.83. So we'll just say $8,000. And we're just going to make this 44. The average deductible, these are average numbers, okay? That means that last year, the average family paid $10,000 for coverage alone, and if they met their deductible, a total of just under $18,000. Meanwhile, an average individual spent $38.52 on coverage, and if she spent another $43.58 to meet her deductible, a total of $82.10. So let's just add these together. So an individual, so let's just say $82.10, and we'll just say $18,000. We're taking averages of both, so that's why it's not working out total. Okay? So the single person, $8,200, and the family, $18,000. Everybody follow me? Does this make sense? Is this ringing true for anybody? Is this about the right numbers? Ish? Give or take? So these figures do not take into account any additional co-insurance responsibility. So that's your 2080. So after your deductible, you guys know how this works. I don't need to lecture you on insurance. But after your deductible's met, right, the rest of it's 80-20 or 90-10 or whatever. In addition to copays and deductibles, an increasing number of plans now require co-insurance payments, which require that even once you meet your deductible, you continue paying some percentage of all costs until you've hit your out-of-pocket maximum. Out-of-pocket maximums can be a lot of money. Now, ER. How many of you have ever been to the ER? You live there? Oh. You say that like it's a good thing. Oh, okay. All right. I was thinking maybe they have comfy beds? I don't know. Annual ER visits have increased 34% between 1995 and 2010. ER visits. Why would that be? Is it that people don't really quite understand, nor are they educated about what is actually an emergency room visit, right? Strep tests, sore throats, crazy stuff that's not, necessarily. Now, I've had a sore throat that, made me want to. But sometimes you'll go to a walk-in clinic or an urgent care center, and they'll send you to the ER for the sore throat. I heard somebody say, uh-huh. Somebody did that? Yeah. So they'll take one look at it, and they'll say, yeah, we can't touch that. By law, we can't touch that. And then they'll send you to the ER. So emergency department visits reached 130.4 million people. Americans are becoming, there's only 300 million people, 320 now, 315, 320, 320 million people in America. Americans are becoming more concerned about how much emergency care costs. Patients spend hours of their time in emergency rooms due to significant overcrowding and spend some additional hundreds or thousands of dollars for the visit, right? Wait times in urban areas can be over an hour, not even including treatment time. The average cost of an ER visit is somewhere around what? Average ER visit. No, average ER price.
Oh, price.
Oh, you walk in an ER, you're not getting out for 2-3 hours, easily. That's quick. A 2 or 3 hour visit in ER is quick.
Quick, very
Quick,
quick.
yeah. Average cost, ER. Oh, geez, really? Anybody? Average cost of an ER? The second the door splits open. Anybody? That was what pretty close. But I found some, that's what I had read in some places, but I'm just being conservative here. 2168. Let's just be nice. Okay? For ER. Now, as we already established, most of your ER stuff is not ER stuff. Most of your ER stuff is adverse reactions to drugs and things that happen to people when doctors prescribe or take people off or change people from one pill to this pill. And then you've got an adverse reaction, and then we have to send somebody from the hospital to the nursing home or vice versa. Ambulance ride. I once took a ride in an ambulance for 4 blocks. Guess how much it cost me?
1,300.
Well, that was very good. 1,500, yep. 2-mile transport online ambulance. Look at this.
That was 2 years ago. Sorry.
Oh, yeah. So if the average ER cost is $2,168 and the average ambulance ride is $2,700, what does that tell you about before you even crack the door open at the ER?
File for bankruptcy.
Always Mr. Positive up here. Yeah. So I don't want to get too dark and depressed on any of this stuff, but MRIs, MRI costs usually about between, well, I don't know if many people can see this back there. MRIs are about $400 to $3,500, depending on where you are. CAT scans, $350 to about $1,800 average. You can look this up. You can Google it. It's right there. CAT scans. That's all we're going to talk about as far as costs. But it depends on what area of the body you get done. It depends on whether it's with contrast, without contrast. Contrast, all that means is we're going to put some radioactive isotopes into your blood, and we're going to watch how it lights up. Not a great idea. And actually, Chuck Norris is suing because his wife was made sick by gadolinium, by the way, which is one of the contrast. Somebody said yes? Somebody, you knew that? Yeah, so the contrasts are toxic as well. But the point I want to get across is that the MRIs and the CAT scans oftentimes are a CYA for the doctors. It's not necessarily, or the hospital staff, it's not necessarily the fact that they're going to be able to tell anything from that. They're looking for tumors, they're looking for broken bones, they're looking for accidental things, they're looking for tumors a lot of times. So the MRIs and the CAT scans, it all depends on what part of the body you're getting done, whether it's with contrast or without contrast, and it also depends on location. It also depends on geography. In other words, downtown Manhattan, you're going to pay a different amount than here in Cleveland, depending on the size of the city. So X-ray costs, lab costs, I won't get into all this. But the most common reasons for ER visits, just so you know, sprains, strains, broken bones, we already talked about that. The actual legitimate emergencies where you have a bone sticking out of your skin, something like that, compound fracture, yes, that's a legitimate emergency. It needs to be set, it needs to be cleaned, you're going to have stitches, stuff like that. But abdominal pain, shortness of breath, we're just going to cover those two right now. Here is standard operating procedure for abdominal pain in an ER setting. Standard operating procedure. Abdominal pain. Now, that can mean gastrointestinal pain, meaning stomach, intestines, bowel, stuff like that, or that can mean kidney pain, abdominal pain. And I suppose, depending on who you ask, pelvic pain or abdominopelvic pain could be, depending on who you ask, and this could be some of those surgeries that open up the abdomen, could be fibroids, cysts, menstrual problems, this and that, IUDs gone wrong, things like that. Abdominal pain, any GI or kidney pain. You would order blood. You're going to look at enzymes, lipase. So you got a blood lab on there. You're already in the ER, by the way, which probably meant maybe this, then you got a blood lab. Then we're going to do a CAT scan to figure out there's fluid and blah, blah, blah in different places. We're looking for trauma. But here, how can you rule out trauma very quickly? We're ruling out breaks and fractures and sprains. How can you do it very, very, very quickly? Ask the patient. You just saved somebody $4,000. So did you fall down? Did you trip? Did somebody kick you in the stomach? No. How often, though, is it standard operating procedure? Yeah, we're going to wheel you over here. We're going to take a CAT scan. We're just going to look and check and make sure everything's okay. That sounds harmless, but is that $4,000 bill that you just got harmless? Not really, is it? So then, CAT scan, they're going to give you fluids, IV fluids, nausea meds, and then they're going to say follow up with your doctor. How many of you have ever been to the ER for abdominal pain? Is that about right? That's about right. So, yeah, 7 hours later, and what was your bill at the end, if you don't mind sharing? Perfect. Did you get good value for your money? No. Okay, just making sure. So abdominal pain, you order labs, CAT scan, fluids, nausea meds, send you home, follow up with your doctor. That's why when people come to me and they say, well, should I go to the ER? Should I go to the walk-in clinic? Should I go to the urgent care? I say, I'll tell you what's going to happen, and you tell me. You make the decision, not me. I'll tell you what's going to happen. Little Johnny's got an earache. You're going to take him in. They might look in his ear. Maybe. Maybe not. They might. And they might see some redness. And then they're going to give you an antibiotic, maybe a steroid. How many of you have kids? Is that right? Tell me if I'm wrong. I mean, is that right? Yeah. Tell me. I mean, I'll admit it. I don't know. I don't have kids. Who knows? So I just saved them. How many hundreds of dollars would that be? Shortness of breath. Here's what happens. Chest x-ray. Correct me if I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong. Shortness of breath. Somebody walks in. I'm wheezing. I can't breathe. Shortness of breath. Chest x-ray. Standard operating procedure. I can predict to you with almost certainty about what is going to happen and what they're going to order. It doesn't take rocket. This is not brain surgery. Ha, see what I did there? This is not emergency brain surgery. Chest x-ray, lab work, checking for arterial blood gas and stuff like that. And then they're going to give you an albuterol or an inhaler or steroid. Am I wrong? Anybody? Is that right on? Okay. How do I know? Well, I've been through, or I've seen, many of these, many times. So just why don't we live our best case scenario, instead of our worst fear? In other words, why am I spending so much money on a product that I know is going to give me something that I don't want, instead of living my best case scenario and saying, all right, best case scenario is, I have this policy or this policy here that's going to take care of me with cash or whatever, and I don't have to pay a bunch of money to a premium and a deductible, copay, and all this stuff just for access to a system that's going to poison me. Spend money on my health, and I'm going to find health. But if I spend money on disease, I'm going to find disease. Guaranteed. If you go looking for truth, you will find truth. If you go looking for deception and lies, you will find deception and lies. That's just a universal truth right there. That's positively true. If you go seeking disease, you will find it. If I go studying pathology and the cause and the breakdown of human tissue, guess what I'm always going to find? I'm always going to find pathology. But if I seek out and study physiology, or I study how God designed the body, how to heal and to replicate and to reproduce itself, if given the right constituents, I will always find health, and I will always find physiology. Does that make sense? That's just simple, isn't it? Last thing. Use your HSA before it goes away. How many of you have HSAs? People ask us all the time. Do you do insurance? Nope, never have, never will. Here's why. They only pay for drugs and surgery. Simple, easy, right? Somebody calls on the phone. Do you take Blue Cross Blue Shield? You say, well, our clinic, we do time of service. Sarah, what's the how do you say it? I know I don't want to embarrass you in front of everybody, but ring, ding, 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 Divine Design. Yeah, I'm wondering, do you take Blue Cross Blue Shield?
The problem is that they don't take us because they only accept drugs and surgery.
There you go. Something along those lines, right? It's not so much that we don't accept insurance, it's that they don't accept us. Because they don't want to accept the fact that you can heal the body with food and real whole food supplements made of plants and animals, because those were the two things pulled out of the dust of the earth besides you. I'll say it again. You were pulled out of the dust of the earth, right? And then there's only two other things. If you read the book says Plants and animals were pulled out of the dust of the earth too. I didn't make that up. I didn't think it. It's not my opinion. Read the book. It's right there. It's super simple, right? So what do? Well, as far as HSAs go, we can, anything that's swipeable is swipeable. If it's got a stripe and a card, it's swipeable, yeah. But what we don't do is we don't bill insurance. We will not participate with that system. We just can't do it. Because once you accept a check from an insurance company, they can always come back and take that money back. In other words, remember how we said that they make their money? They deny the doctor payment. Oh, it wasn't medically necessary. Why'd you take those x-rays? Why'd you take those CAT scans? They can deny the doctor payment, or they can up your premiums. Another way they can deny your doctor payment, I don't know, 7 years down the road, if they look at, maybe getting some money back on you, they're going to audit you, and they're going to come in, and they're going to go through everything that you have to try to find something. You know you've been ethical. You know you've been moral. You know that you've done your best with every person that's walked in your door. But they will find something to go back on. They will find it. There are people employed as watchdogs, hound dogs, I forget what they're called. There are whistleblowers out there in the insurance industry that say, this is what I was paid to do. I had to go in and find a way to get our money back, hundreds of thousands of dollars. That will shut you down overnight, instantly. What doctor is going to be able to take care of that? What doctor is going to be able to handle that? Right? So we don't deal with that whole system. We don't deal with any of it. But what we do is we participate with you. We don't participate with a plan. We participate with the person. It's much more personal. Isn't that the way healthcare should have been, would have been, always has been, forever? So here's what we can't, basically we can't promise a cure, but we can promise you these things. If you come in here, you get ahead of the curve before the drugs and the surgery, before they take out all your organs, before they poison you for years and weeks and days and months. This will be the most affordable healthcare you will ever find. I promise you. How do I know? Because doing what I do, if I adjust your neck, your back, your hip, your knee, your ankle, your shoulder, there's 6 charges. Plus if we use laser, there's 7. Say we use laser twice, there's 8. Say we use percussion, there's another modality, there's 9. Say somebody did massage, there's 10. There's 10 things right there that you would have to bill an insurance company for, right? Well, if your premium was this, if your deductible, see, I don't want to participate with this. Not only does it hurt you, it hurts me. It's much easier to keep it between. When you go buy a car, do you have a third-party company do it, or do you do it? When you go buy food, Sheila, do you go buy your food, or do you have a third-party company go buy your food for you? When you go get an oil change, Ryan, do you have a third-party company pay for your oil change, or do you pay for your oil change?
Oh, I do it myself.
Right there. Wow, he's a man's man. I guess he showed me. But when you go anywhere, when you go buy clothes, do you have a third-party company pay for it, or do you buy it?
I buy it.
Right. So why do we think that we're going to get our health care covered by another company that cares not about the health of their policyholders, but about the bottom line of their shareholders? Do you understand the lunacy of how the system works? Do you understand the idiocy? Do you understand that they don't think you get it? They really don't. You get it? Huh?
They bank on that.
They bank on that. They bank on you not understanding anything I just said. They bank on you not knowing that drugs kill people. They bank on you not knowing that every drug is a toxic poison. They bank on you not knowing it. And then they wait, and they wait, and they wait. And if you come in and do get educated for a few weeks or months or whatever, and you go home, you watch TV, and you're getting constantly bombarded by what? The exact opposite. The exact opposite. Finally, you hear it enough, and you go meet with your buddies, playing bridge, and your friends, sitting down at the hair salon talking, and everybody's, what are they talking about? What's everybody talking about? Huh? Yeah.
Sick.
Do they talk about, man, I just climbed Kilimanjaro the other day, and I learned how to fly a plane? No, they're talking about, I went to my doctor, and I got my heart cath, and I had to get a stent put in, and I'm on Lipitor now, right? Am I wrong? You go sit around, sit in an assisted living place for a little while, okay? This will be the most affordable healthcare you will ever find because you don't have to deal with this, you don't have to deal with this, you don't have to deal, and then once you pay a copay, you're still paying coinsurance, right? Not here. So in that one visit where we would charge your insurance company 8 or 9 things and then argue with them for the next 6 months trying to get the money, we would treat you for a $40 visit, which beats your copay. That's how it works. How many of you can raise your hand has been patients here and said it's worth it? Pfft, look at the hands. Facebook, look at the hands. Look at that. See? Nothing we do can kill you. Can other doctors promise that? We use my hands, ancient. Not my hands are ancient, but the hands of man are ancient. Don't call me old. Andrea. Hands, the hands of man, ancient tools, healing tools, right? The laying on of hands, that's all we're doing. Water, check. Electricity, check. Food, check. Vitamins, check. Minerals, check. Plants, check. Animals, check. Light, check. We use it all. Laser, detoxification, food. How can you beat that? So nothing that we do can harm you. But we're the quacks. Funny. One of these days, I'll tell you about where the term quack came from. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. If you all were into it, I might tell you tonight. You will be liberated and educated to change your life and family. Promise number 3. And promise number 4, you will begin to see positive changes. I promise you. If you do what we tell you to do, as long as we tell you to do it, you will see positive changes. 90% of the time, you'll see positive changes within the week. I promise you. That's the certainty, and that's the ethically and morally sound basis upon which we operate here. This is a small town. This is a small town of people that deserve good care. This is a small town of people that have been, led up the creek for a little while as far as how many pharmacies there are in this town, matching up with how many churches there are in this town, how many banks, how many Mexican restaurants. You know what I mean? I love Mexican restaurants, don't get me wrong. I know, and tire stores popping up like candy everywhere. Everybody's running tires. And banks, yeah. Oh, did I not say banks? Oh, yeah. We all know the banks. So those are my promises to you. So what's the answer to all this? Well, we kind of covered all of it. Oh, and I don't have a Sarah. You got a thing? Kleenex. What's the answer to all this? I'll just explain it real quick. What we do here is nutrition. 90% of what we do is nutrition. If any other doctor tells you that nutrition doesn't matter, that food doesn't matter, and that they're just going to put you on a drug to fix your problem, they're either lying to you or they're nuts. I'm just telling you. Because no drug will ever supersede what you put in your body. How do I know? I don't know. You know people who are on 3 or 4 blood pressure meds, but their blood pressure is still high. Yeah, everybody knows. Am I lying? Everybody knows. How do I know? Because they never changed anything. They just put what's artificially accelerating, what's artificially pumping up their blood pressure. What's the only thing that can pump up their blood pressure? Something that goes on or in their body. That's it. Right? Yeah. That's the only thing that can cause high blood pressure. So think about it and say, oh, what about genetics? What about genetics? Well, let's think about what we can change. How about their food? So nutrition is the biggest thing. Nutrition is what you've been lied to about. Food is what you've been lied to about. How do I know? McDonald's in the lobby of your hospital. That's how I know. Vending machines at the schools. That's how I know. Right? Oh, well, you're saying be mean and don't let my kids eat Skittles? No, I'm saying be moral and don't kill your kids with toxic poisons. That's what I'm saying. Teach them better. Teach them a little differently than all the other. The way of destruction is wide. You want them to be like everybody else? You want to jump off a bridge, kid? So how do I know? Nutrition is the huge 90% of what we do here. The other stuff. We turn on the big structures of the body with chiropractic. That just makes sense. Yes. Thank you, darling. So chiropractic, laser, percussion, nutrition. I want to draw this out, and then we'll take a few questions. Just two more minutes. So chiropractic, nutrition, laser, detox, sauna. Chiropractic, you adjust the big structures of the body. Very, very, very simple. If somebody has a shoulder problem, we adjust the shoulder. That moves the bones. Are we popping bones? Nope. Are we cracking necks? Nope. Are we popping backs? Nope. Guess what we're doing? We're putting the most neurological input into your body that it's ever had. How do I know? Because we're moving the bones, and guess what's around those bones? Ligaments. What attaches the muscles to the bones? Tendons. What goes through the bones? Arteries, nerves, veins, lymph nodes. When we move your ribs, guess what else moves? Your lungs. When we move your neck, guess what else moves? Your trachea, your esophagus, your tonsils, your ear, your eustachian tubes, your jaws, everything. Chiropractic, the first adjustment restored hearing. It had nothing to do with neck pain, back pain, or headache. How many of you knew that? One person. See? How many of you knew that the first chiropractic adjustment restored the hearing of a man in 1895? The first recorded one. Chinese people, Egyptian people, they were walking on backs all day, right? But when D.D. Palmer came along and said chiropractic, by hand only, chiropractic means by hand, practice by hand, it restored hearing. Why don't we see miracles like that nowadays? Because of this. The GMOs, the food additives, the artificial sweeteners, the sugar. You can't get miracles when their body's falling apart. Does that make sense? Chiropractic. Big structures. You move their neck, you move their whole head, you move their skull bones, you move their neck, all the bones, arteries, nerves, muscles, veins, joints, synovial fluid, everything. Draws blood to the area, energy, life is in the blood, gets good stuff in, bad stuff out. That's how chiropractic works. Nutrition, you cannot replace your liver with candy. You can only replace your liver with proteins and fats, not sugar. You can only replace your organs, you can only replace your heart with protein. You can only replace protein with protein. But if you're building a house, you want drywall and 2x4s, right? What if you're building a house in America now with McDonald's in the lobby at your hospital and vending machines in the schools? You're building your house with duct tape and drywall. You're duct tape and cardboard. You follow me? You're building with the wrong materials. So nutrition is what's going to fix it all. Big structures, right? This is small. Nutrition, good. In, oops. And detox is bad out. Bad out. Laser, I'll just cover that real quickly. It's light. It's the wavelength of your DNA. DNA, in the beginning God said, let there be light, right? The distance between here and here, 635 nanometers. It's a wavelength. Guess what? Guess what wavelength a laser operates on? Cold laser. Same wavelength. Guess what? DNA, how many of you know what DNA does? Makes you who you are. All your proteins are coded on DNA. Don't you love when I put you on the spot? Educated people know what DNA is. So 635 nanometers, that codes for all the proteins that make up who you are. So if we use light, in the beginning God said, let there be what?
Light.
Light. If we use light, that's going to stimulate the small structures, and then the detox and sauna is going to get the bad stuff out. So we got the big structures, the small structures, the good stuff in, the bad stuff out. That's how we do it, and we do it for a nominal service charge of 3 installments of $19.95. I'm just kidding. All right, any questions? There we go. $7.25. There we go. Any questions for me, you guys? Yes, sir.
Did you know that the base charge for light force is $15,000 and then $133 a mile?
The base charge, say that again?
The base charge for light force, the helicopter. Is
Oh, life force.
$15,000 and then $133 a mile. My brother had a stroke in Murphy, North Carolina.
Wow.
81 miles from there to Erlanger. And then probably $1,000 for the ambulance to pick him up a mile away from the house. And he was dead on machines for 5 days. And his wife widow had no insurance. And they were in the ICU with a clipboard saying, you know, how can you pay for this?
Wow. So what, I'm sorry to hear that. That's
He
horrible.
was 59.
Well, so what'd you determine? In a situation like that, because I'm sure everybody's got the question, well, what do you do? Do you not do insurance? In that situation, if you don't mind saying, you know, what did you come up with?
Well, he was was not obese, but he was a little overweight. He had a big gut, and he was stressed, working so hard trying to please everybody that he had a bleed in the brain. And basically he was dead when they took him out, but they kept him on machines for 5 days from Wednesday to Sunday, and then they unhooked him and everybody watched him die. And she's probably still paying for it, if she ever can pay for it at all, because they wanted the property because she has a house in North Carolina, Murphy, North Carolina.
Wow.
So that's a never-ending story.
Jeez. Well, I'm sure that other people have heard similar stories, I'm sure. Yeah, I've heard many similar stories. I'm sorry to hear that. And think about if we could, so he was 59, so what if he could have staved that off for 10 or 15 years? He said he wasn't obese, but he had a big gut. How many of you, there's a lot of people out there who may not be considered obese, but have inflammation and swelling and abdominal distension. And so there's a disease process there way ahead of time. It didn't happen overnight. It happened years before. And I'll just use an example of marathon runners. All the time you hear people say, or very good athletes, you'll hear people say, well, he was perfectly healthy and then he just dropped dead. No, he was not perfectly healthy. Even if he was an athlete, and I'm sure that you said that was your brother? Brother or
My brother.
your brother, yeah.
Well, what happened to him was when he was a child, they said he had rheumatic fever. So he was not allowed to have any physical activity.
Right.
So his whole entire life, he never had any exercise at all.
How old was he at that time? What year was that, perhaps?
He was probably 10 or 12.
Told not to do any activity?
No physical activity, no PE, nothing for his entire life
For his
because
entire life.
he was diagnosed with rheumatic fever.
So instead of boosting your immune system to overtake that fever, that poor kid lived in fear his entire life of dropping dead from overexerting himself. So instead of acting proactively and building that body that we all know can heal from a paper cut or a gunshot wound, instead of building that up, he lived in fear. God, that's why I'm here. That's why we're here. To change that whole entire paradigm. To stand at the precipice of that and say, thus far and no more. My family's been torn up by it. Your families have been torn up by it. Somebody's got to stand up and wave a banner of truth and freedom and say, bring it. There's a new sheriff in town. That system does not work. You know it and I know it. It kills and maims people. And we've seen it for years. So now we have to take responsibility for our health and quit thinking that Blue Cross Blue Shield, Cigna, Aetna, and Humana are going to pay for it. And go, wait a minute, I could save a whole lot of money off of this garbage if I just spent 10, 20 bucks more a week on groceries. And I just got some good stuff. And I learned what this crazy dude who's up in front of this room is telling me. How could I do this? How many of you anybody have, on the flip side of that, thank you, sir, for sharing. On the flip side of that, does anybody have any testimonials or anything about your health? Doesn't have to be about us or what we've done. Anything that you've discovered or done or brought into your life lately that has changed the way that you view healthcare and set you free from some of this mindset. Anybody? Lisa.
I know me and my husband both have been under Dr. Brett's care, and my husband, he had a stroke 2 years ago, almost to the day, January 13th, 2 years. Fortunately, he survived. He was under the care. He knew he had high blood pressure. He was under the care of a physician for an entire year. He went seeing him every month. The physician, unfortunately, never changed his medications. It was always high every time he walked in, like super high. And never would change it. And so I finally was actually in the process of finding a new physician because I was scared for my husband's life, and he had a stroke. So since he has been under Dr. Brett's care, his vision has been restored, which is amazing. I mean, he seen the ophthalmologist in December, and they were stunned. His depth perception is still very affected, which that was what was affected in the stroke, one of the things that was affected, so we're working on that. And also his bone density had grown. He had actually fell and broke his neck. They said he had a bone density disease. Said that he needed to come back in 6 months with another CT scan to talk about installing a rod in his neck. So whenever we returned after being under his nutritional care, the doctor was shocked and stunned that his bone density had actually increased. You know, this man is 47 years old. Bone density just don't increase at that age unless, his first question, the orthopedic surgeon, have you changed your diet? Are you eating super healthy? First thing out of his mouth. So we were just like, we felt very blessed with confirmations that we did the right thing. And that's just my husband's story. I have more stories.
Yeah, that's the norm, where they're used to seeing people fade away and deteriorate so quickly that when they have somebody who doesn't, it's a blip on the radar screen. It's that outlier. Like, what are you doing? And you noticed, what was the first thing out of his mouth? They knew. They know. They automatically know. You're changing your diet. You're taking supplements. You're doing something. Something's up, because they know better. You know. Did you have a story?
Yep.
Hold on one sec. Yes.
I've been under Dr. Brett's care for probably a couple of years, and
Okay, 4. I started out with colon cancer, and I kept going to see the oncologist, and all he would do is want to run tests and check everything, and not have me change anything in my health as far as diet or anything. So once we started visiting Dr. Brett, he put us on supplements, and since then, the change in food. So I've lost approximately 50 pounds, which then my primary care doctor took me off of metformin because I had sugar issues. But the oncologist, every time I would go visit, he's like, "What's up with you?" He says, "You're looking good. You're losing weight. What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, I'm just eating healthier." And he's like, "Wow." He goes, "You get it. You get it. You're eating healthy. That's good." I'm like, "But you never told me to eat healthy. Never one time has told me to eat healthy. Zero. Until I came here." But it amazes me that when I sign in at their desk, they have a giant bowl of candy right in the front. So one day I asked the nurse there in the office, I said, "What's up with that bowl of candy?" And she's like, "What do you mean?" I said, "Well, you know sugar is not healthy for people with cancer." And she's like, "Oh, that's so bad." Okay, well, it's still there.
Yeah.
It's still there.
They know. They know exactly. So we get, doing what we do, we get very upset when somebody doesn't get better. The other side in this battle that we're in, they get very upset if you don't die on time. You follow me? Well, you were only supposed to, we gave you 6 months. It's been 9 months. What's going on? Diagnosis must have been wrong. We need to run more tests. See, it's very different paradigm. But I'm going, if you're not better in 6 weeks, I'm thinking, darn it, why is this taking so long? I want their pain and dysfunction to be zeros. It's only at a 2. We still got 80% better from where they were at a 10, but I'm beating myself up, going, come on, body, hurry up. What am I missing? You know? Yeah, I know. But thank you, Mike. Yeah, that's a good story. I'll never forget that story. Yes, Andrew.
We got a question from Facebook.
Yes.
So Tyler asked, he says, "The concern and question I have is about price. We know the need for chiropractic work, but he feels like he doesn't have enough money currently to afford treatment. Would there be any sort of help or any sort of suggestions for someone in his situation that maybe don't have the funds immediately available but are wanting treatment?"
Well, my first question there would be, what do they think So many people think it's so anything that is done health-wise has to be so expensive, especially if it's something like this that I've never heard about and I don't quite know how it works. Oh gosh, they're going to be really expensive. Tyler, I'll just tell you this, man, just to cut to the chase. I don't go down the realm of chatting money with many people, but I'll write it out here in just a second. But I will say this, what we're doing is so much cheaper than anything you've ever seen. Is anybody here pleasantly surprised by how affordable this healthcare was, or healthcare is? Heads nodding. Can we say yes? No?
Yes.
Yes? I mean, you're thinking of a healthcare screening that gets you into, or you're thinking of a imaging or ER or something that's $3,000 and $4,000 and $5,000 for something that's not even going to give you any answers. That's expensive. But here, you and your phone. You're so popular. How do you do it?
I had the thing cut off.
Yeah.
It always rings when it doesn't need it to. Sit there all day and it don't do nothing, but then when I get somewhere and don't need it to, that's when it does it.
Oh, wait a minute. I'll just do this for you, Tyler. That's a great question. I know a lot of people are probably wondering, but let's just do this out. If I saw you, now let's just say, if I saw you once a week, okay, for an entire year, I don't know how sick somebody is, I don't know how old, I don't know how bad they eat, I don't know if they're 20 pounds overweight, 150 pounds overweight, whatever. They might be missing 12 organs, or they might be 24 years old and just have the sniffles. I don't know. So I can't say ahead of time. But if I saw you one visit, one time per week, $40 visits. If I just did that for a year, look at what you're paying. That's at times, by the way. For a year. Now, that's assuming that I have to see you once a week. I'm just doing this to break it all down. I'm just doing this to keep it simple. Okay? Say that you needed, I don't know, $100 in supplements a month. I don't know. It might be more, it might be less. Who knows? That would be, I never do this. I never break it all out like this. That's just 52 visits. That's saying we're seeing you once a week. I might have to see you once a month. I might have to see you once every 2 or 3 weeks. But I'm just giving you some numbers to break this all down because I don't want to avoid the question. This is a very sensitive thing, and it's money, and it's everybody's least favorite topic to talk about. My least favorite topic, too. Who gets to talk to people about money around here? Thank God for Sarah. Thank God for Sarah. Thank God. So if I saw you every week for a year and you were dropping $100 a month on supplements, it'd come out to $32.80. What did we just determine that the single person spent on premiums, not healthcare, premiums, $4,800. But then before you get to use those premiums, what's the average deductible? So before you even get to use those premiums, and guess what? Did this make you better or did that make you worse? Unless you were in an accident and had a broken bone or a sprain or a strain. Even sprains and strains. What are they going to do? They're going to put you in a cast or put you in not a cast, splint, thank you. So you've got this versus that. With the promises over here of being the most affordable health care you're ever going to find, you're going to learn stuff that'll change your life, change your family, change your kids. You're going to start getting better. Can they make the promises over here?
No.
Absolutely not. And you've got people saying that they had cancer for years that nobody ever told them about diet, nobody ever told them about supplements. People over here with strokes and broken necks. I'd say your best bet would be to go right here. You know what I mean? So hopefully that answers your question. I understand, man. It's hard to think that something like this would be a third of the price of what you're used to, but it shakes out like that. Might be more, might be less, depending on how sick somebody is. But I totally understand. Totally understand. And you can tell everybody. Tell your friends, tell your family. I might need to see you much more early on. If you're sick and you're missing 6 organs and you're on 15 medications, I might need to see you chiropractic, detox, nutrition, one a week for that first month or 2 or 3. Most people, I'm seeing them for once a week for 3 months. I'll just tell you straight up, once a week, 3 months. Then we cut them back to once every 2 weeks, once every 3 weeks, once a month. Once they get better and once they level out, once we get them out of the pit and we get them up here. So it's all dependent on that person. clinically and that person, how they are health-wise, which this system over here doesn't take much of that into account, does it? When they put you on drug number 12, are they taking into account drug number 1 through drug number 11? Are they taking into account your diet? Are they asking? No.
That's only one visit on the right side.
That's one, yeah. Right, that's your premiums. That doesn't mean you got any value out of that. That's just what you paid per month, out of added up per month for 12 months, right? $400 a month. And then that's your deductible that you have to pay before you can actually use the product that your premium bought. So that doesn't mean that you even really got something other than in an accident. Does that answer your question? Is that good? Anything else on Facebook, Andrew?
Not questions, no.
Thank you for monitoring that, by the way. Yes, sir.
Say 30 years ago, I was taking NyQuil to go to sleep at night, taking muscle relaxers for my back, which I had injured lower back, and preaching Alka-Seltzer, carrying it in my wallet in a foil pack and giving it to people, and falling asleep in front of the TV, eating a pint of ice cream and cube steak, and we're staying awake for 24 hours at a time. Meaning my job was transporting prisoners and driving, and I was headed drinking 12 to 15 Diet Cokes a day, taking no dose, and
I'm glad you're here.
after
Sounds like me in college.
after hitting the pit and saying what happened to you, because I couldn't get anything done, I was totally not productive on my job that I had. I went on a cleanse and changed my lifestyle and changed my diet.
Wow.
And it's 30 years later, and I'm working harder now than I ever had, and I haven't had to pay for health insurance my whole family in 26 years. I've got 5 children, and they've all been raised with with midwives, with no clinics, and then no health insurance.
Teach this class, man?
I'll talk to you afterwards.
That's great. So Holly, right there, you see it can be done. Right there, you see, like my sister being born for $60, and then me being, $4,000 or $5,000, $6,000, whatever I was, Mom. Thank you, by the way. How it progressed 30, 40 years, later on to you, and your kids and all this going from you had one foot in the grave. It sounds like.
I had a mother that was a hypochondriac.
Oh, geez.
We blinked too many times. We went to the emergency room.
Wow.
And the concern for her, and my dad was the opposite. He was a hygienist.
Wow.
Was hospitalization, which today we would call health insurance. Do we have
Yeah.
hospitalization? We got to keep hospitalization.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Wow. That's right. Wow. What a great story. That's great, man. I gotta pick your brain for a little while. That's awesome. But look at that. Midwives, doulas. The options are out there. You can do this. You don't have to go down the same road that your family or your grandparents or your mom or your dad went down. The white coats are not God. They don't have 6 months to give you. They don't have 2 years to give you. And at best, they're going to say when they're wrong, that their diagnosis was wrong, when you don't die in 6 months like they said you're going to. Look at all of the stories out there about people doing exactly, what's your name, sir? Ken. Look at all the stories out there that are available. People doing exactly what he did, who were on their deathbed, stage 4, whatever OMA that they were diagnosed with, changed their diet, started eating differently, got off the artificial sweeteners, got off the chemicals, cleaned up their water, cleaned up their food, and boom, what happens? Everybody gets healthy. How can that be a fluke? How can that be anything but true? And here he is, living and breathing because of it. Think about that. So don't allow your family, don't allow your friends, don't allow your neighbors or your coworkers. Their blood's on your hands. I mean, come on, in a good way. I'm not charging you with that. I'm just saying it is your sacred obligation to let people know they don't have to go down the same path. Is it not? Seriously, think about it. Are people going to think that you're nuts? Probably. But are they going to know that you're right? One day. In this life or the next, guess what? They're going to get it. I promise you. So speak truth, and you will always find truth. If you avoid truth, you're always going to avoid it, right? Gosh, I love that. That's great. So it can be done. Anything else? Any other questions? Faye?
You said at the beginning, what if you were healthy enough you didn't have to go to the doctor?
Yeah.
I have not been to the doctor in at least a year, probably longer. I'd have to check my records.
That everything he said is true. When I came here, this was me. This was me a year ago.
Oh, wow. Hold that up for Oh, you put the two together.
I have lost 106 pounds. Some of you heard this.
2 years.
I've come off of 11 medications.
Can I see it, Brett?
I was diabetic on insulin. I no longer take insulin, and my primary care doctor took me off of that. After I eventually went off all my medicines, I had blood work done, and everything was perfect. And so what this man says is true. It works. I tell him I'm his walking billboard.
Yeah, I can't get rid of her. I can't shake her. She wears our colors and everything. What a blessing. No, but Faye, when she first came in, I wondered if she was even gonna, if I was gonna accept her as a patient, because she's just one of those people. What we refer to, unfortunately, there's those patients you kind of refer to as medical wreckage. I mean, they've been through a lot, you know. They've been cut and diced and lied to and poisoned and not told the truth. I hate to say that, use that term, but that sometimes there's some people where you just go, man, this is a liability. This is almost a liability. This might be a reputation thing, you know. Like, I want to do as much as I can for all these people, but are they really going to do what they have to do? Because I can't do it for them, you know. And I've had that talk with you, and I've said, man, Faye, when you walked in here, you could barely. Her eyes were blinking. She could barely keep her eyes open. And I thought, is she going to be able to even be tested? Is she going to be able to? She's going to be able to read the books and read the stuff that she needs to read, the education. Doctor means teacher, not prescriber. So we educate people, you know, on how to rebuild their body. Is she going to be able to do that? I don't know. And then you started coming off the meds, which I did not take you off of. And then you started getting better. And when you came off insulin, that was a biggie. That was a biggie. Nobody comes off insulin. Nobody comes off insulin. Does anybody come off insulin? Very few people. Very few people. And God has interwoven our paths together in such a beautiful, awesome way. Because now, well, it's beautiful. I can't shut her up. I would never want to. It's a beautiful thing. It's great. Anybody else? Anything else? Any other questions, comments, concerns? Complaints can go to Hannah and to Michaela and Andrew. I'll take all the questions. But yeah. Anything else? Nothing? Questions, comments, concerns? Going once, going twice. Giveaways. All right, Facebook. Hey, it's been fun. Facebook, next time, February 5th. You are what you eat. We will see you in a week.